What's going on, podcast listeners? My name is Michael Chernow. I am a restaurateur and lifestyle entrepreneur, and I am truly obsessed with living a life better than yesterday through wellness, fitness, and good vibes. I've always wondered if the drive to succeed is something we are born with, or if it's something that is made over time through grit, drive, and perseverance. I get to answer that question exactly, and the goal of this podcast is to talk with people that have absolutely crushed it in life and have inspired me to do the same. This is Born or Made. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Born or Made podcast. I am fired up today to introduce my next guest. Her name is Emily Stockman. She is a pro beach volleyball player. She plays with the USA team. She is a two-time All-American. She is a 2021 Olympic hopeful, and she is bad to the bone. I can't wait to dig into her story, chat with her about what it feels like to be a hardcore professional athlete working towards the Olympics. I think that is such an interesting place to be, specifically because it's so close to where we are right now. Emily, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. So excited to be here.
Yeah, we've been trying to put this one together for some time now, and we're gonna fight through all the hurdles in our path, and we finally made it happen. So why don't you give us?
We're finally ready.
Yeah, let's do it. Give us a little rundown or introduction on who you are and how you've gotten to be the person you are today.
Okay. So I was born and raised in Colorado. I have one older sister. So growing up, I always wanted to do everything she did. She started playing basketball. I played basketball. She got into volleyball. I played volleyball. So she definitely started my journey. So I definitely owe her a lot, to say the least. So I was a 4-sport athlete all through high school. I did basketball, volleyball, track, and tennis, and then got a full ride scholarship to play indoor volleyball at Wichita State University in Kansas. And then from there, I graduated in 2010, and I played 4 years of indoor volleyball professionally in Europe, in France, Finland, Sweden, Switzerland, and the Maldives. And then in 2014, decided I wanted to go to the Olympics, and my best shot at going was to play beach volleyball. So moved to California in 2014 and transitioned to the beach. And at the time I was like, oh, I'm going to go to the 2016 Olympics. It's going to be awesome. And once I started beach volleyball, I was like, holy cow, this is way different. The journey to even get to the Olympics takes years and years. So once I realized that, I had my heart set on 2020, and here we are, so close. It's been a crazy journey. Wow.
You know, when I close my eyes and I think of beach volleyball, I literally think of the difference between running on pavement and running on sand. And the difference is massive.
It's insane.
I can't even imagine what it's like to play volleyball at that level on the sand. I mean, was that just a major, tell us about it.
Yeah, I had no idea either. I mean, growing up in Colorado, I never really went to the beach. I had family out here, so we had been a couple times when I was a kid. And I just remember I couldn't even walk in the sand. I was like, man, this sucks. This is hard. But then once I got into it, it's way more forgiving on the body. You can just play for a lot longer, but it was definitely a transition. And I definitely started just running a lot on the beach and doing sprints just to get used to moving around in the sand and figuring out how to jump and actually using the sand to my advantage, other than letting it just sink into it and just crush me.
Yeah. So Born or Made is a podcast where I get to sit down with incredible people like you that have done extraordinary things and continue to do extraordinary things and inspire myself and others. We really have the nature nurture conversation, whether you think you were born with the innate ability to crush it, or if you were made over time. And the way we like to get there, or the way that I like to get there, is to get into your story a bit, really understand what your childhood was like, and what motivated you to do what you do, whether it was something that you can't describe, or whether it is, you know, it was a combination of your just like inherent drive, or your parents pushing you, or your older sister pushing you. But why don't we just get into that? Because I think that that's a really interesting conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell us, like, what was it?
You want me? Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
What was it like as a child in Colorado? Did you come from an athletic family?
Yes, kind of. My mom played professional tennis for a very short period of her life, back when she was in college. And then my dad, we grew up going.
Hold on a second. I got to stop you there for a second. I'm like, do you come from an athletic family? You're like, well, kind of. I mean, my mom did play professional tennis for a little while. I mean,
it was such a short stint, but yeah, I mean, I guess.
So you have athletic parents. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. And my dad was more extreme sports. He's an amazing skier. He raced motocross as a kid. And even when my sister and I were born, we grew up going to the racetrack and watching him race. So that was kind of other things that we did too. Like, I am all about extreme sports, and I love living life on the edge. And so that kind of carried over into basketball and volleyball and track. And a lot of my coaches knew that I rode motocross and they hated it. And I just remember telling them, like, this is also part of my life. And if you take that away, then I'm not being true to myself, and I'm not able to perform like I can, because those things instill fear in me. So when I'm on the volleyball court, I'm like, nothing scares me. You know,
let's talk about
a life or death situation.
I want to talk about fear for a minute.
Yeah.
Fear is such an interesting thing, right? Fear is really a feeling. It's never really, it's not a real thing. How do you compute, or how do you metabolize fear internally? Like, what does fear do for you?
It's going to sound crazy, but I love that adrenaline rush and that fear aspect. Riding a motor, like we do a lot of riding through the mountains, and it's a lot of single track motorcycles or motorcycle trails. And half the time you're literally on the side of a mountain. So if you fall to the right, you're tumbling down a mountain. And if you fall to the left, you're probably safe. So just having that, like, literally you're riding along and your palms get sweaty and it's this fearful thing, but then you conquer it and you're like, oh my gosh, that was like the best thing that ever happened. So I think that's the exciting part for me about fear, is just conquering it. And at the end, you look back and you're like, holy cow, that could have been really bad, but it was actually amazing.
Do you think the ability to handle fear the way you handle it is a genetic thing? Do you think because your dad was such a daredevil, or, do you think it's something that you inherited from him?
Yeah, I would say so. But I also think, I would say I inherited it from him because we started doing things at such a young age that were scary. And even like, I remember 3 years old is when I started skiing, and my dad was taking me down black diamonds at 3 years old. And it was like, I was scared to death. But at the same time, it's like, I have my dad and I know he's not going to let anything happen to me. And so I guess it's kind of hard for me to say, is it genetic, or is it just that I started at such a young age that it was just built into me, and I knew that it was something that I could overcome.
Your dad sounds like the man. Sounds like the best dad.
My dad's a badass. That's for sure.
So, all right. So you're doing all sorts of crazy stuff at a young age. And, I assume that your parents were just super supportive in every way.
Yes. They, anything me and my sister wanted to do, they always supported us. And well, except for soccer, they were like, my dad's like, I don't want to sit and watch soccer, so pick another sport. Which is totally fair. That's fine.
Good on him. Good on him.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, they were very supportive, but they also told me and my sister from a young age, because we decided to do sports, they weren't going to let us quit. That was something that they're like, because then once we started getting older into high school, we had to play club sports. That's just kind of like, that's where you get recruited and that's how you get scholarships. And so my parents sat us down and basically told us, we're going to use your college fund to pay for your club sports. So this is like, that's what we're going to do if this is the route you decide. And so once you go that route, you can't quit. There's no quitting. You have to stick with it because we're putting a lot of money into this in hopes of you guys getting a scholarship.
Wow. That is such a crazy conversation. Do you remember like what they actually said?
I honestly, I don't remember it as well as my sister does. But her and I have talked about it. And I think I more so just having the conversation with my sister now that we've gotten older, I remember pieces of it. But yeah, she definitely remembers like us all sitting there and just like word for word what was said and what we had to do. But
do you remember what was the feeling walking away from that conversation?
I think excitement, because it was just like in that moment, it was like, I know I want to play sports. So it's awesome that my parents are, finding a way financially to make it happen. And then we both got to play for some of the best clubs in Colorado. So it was almost like, okay, we get this opportunity and our parents are finding a way to make it happen. So like as a kid, you're just like, this is great.
My God, I can't even imagine that. That's like, that is like dream come true. Basically, mom and dad sit down, you guys, and say, hey, here's the deal. We believe in you. We think you have the ability to take it as far as it can go. We're going to take the money that we've been saving for you for college and put it towards your education in sports right now, banking on the fact that you're just going to get a scholarship in college.
Yep.
And you're like, basically, yeah, that's what I'm going to do.
Oh, that for sure. Because school wise, I was like, no, I'm not really into this, but sports, like if I just have to pass school so I can play sports, I'm all in.
I mean, that is like, that could be one of the coolest things I've ever heard a parent do, really. I'm in the world of I'm an entrepreneur. And so when somebody sits you down and says, hey, I'm going to invest all sorts of money in you because I believe in you, there's no better feeling than that in the world of entrepreneurialism. And so I can only imagine at probably like 16, 17 years old, feeling that support from your parents must have been like, I mean, do you think that's what's taken you this far?
Absolutely. Because their support has never stopped. As soon as I just kind of jumping forward, as soon as I decided I wanted to play beach volleyball, my parents helped me look for a place. I was living in Switzerland at the time, finishing up my last indoor season. And my dad got on Craigslist, found me an apartment in California, and they actually moved all my stuff for me. So all my stuff was in storage. They moved it out to California. So once I flew home from Switzerland, I walked into an apartment completely set up. And I made money in Europe playing volleyball, but they were always like, if you need help with anything, we're here. We will help support this dream of yours, as long as you're doing everything you need to actually make it happen. Wow. So their support has always been there. And
wow. That is unbelievable. It's rare that kind of support from a parent is, in my opinion, could be, this shows, again, it's called Born or Made, right? And a lot of the conversations that I've had have been, with athletes, with entrepreneurs, with just people that have done sort of really incredible things. But it's
Mhm.
there's never been like a real like my parents were the catalyst to my success.
Right.
Outside of doing the work
Yeah.
on the field, it sounds like your parent like that's such inspiring information to hear because as a parent, you know, my boys, I have two young kids,
Mhm.
they mean everything to me. And I did
Right.
not get that kind of support from my parents. And I, you know, they did what they
Mhm.
could, but just to hear you say that and know that like I can support my kids and anybody listening that has children can really be the catalyst to their dreams is totally
Yeah.
inspiring.
Yeah.
So outside of your parents, do you remember there were
Mhm.
can you recall times in your childhood where you were like I want to do this for the rest of my life and I'm going to do whatever the F it takes to get there?
Yeah. And, it was actually for basketball. Basketball was my number one sport. That was my dream. I was like, I want to be like Cheryl Swoops. I want to go to the WNBA. Um, so everything. And then Michael Jordan, of course, he was like my hero. So just watching them and diving into their life and the stuff that they did really inspired me. So I would like hearing Michael Jordan, and he would be the first one in the gym and the last one out, and just those types of things really inspired me. So I definitely took sports over homework. Like I had good grades, but it didn't really mean anything to me. I was just like, I'm just doing this so that I can go to the gym and I can play basketball, or I can go to the gym and play volleyball. Um, so I that's really all I remember from high school is like going from practice. I would go to basketball, and then my parents would pick me up and have dinner in the car as I went to volleyball practice. So just yeah, everything I did was for sports and to be the best that I could be. I wanted to be the best at my high school.
And you remember saying that to yourself?
Oh yeah, all the time. Yeah, it was very yeah. Even as a freshman, it was like it's intimidating, walking
Why
into the
though?
gym.
I want to talk about why. Like I want to understand why. What was motivating you to want to be the best?
It probably started even younger than that. So when I was in elementary school, my sister's 2 years older. So she's in fifth grade. I'm in third. And she was going to basketball tryouts. And it was basically like fourth graders made the B team, fifth graders made the A team, and you had to be in fourth or fifth grade to play. And my dad went and talked to the basketball coach and said, her younger sister, Emily, really wants to play. And the coach was like, third graders aren't allowed to play. I'm sorry. My dad's like, can you just let her try out? Just like, let her feel good about it. Just let her try out. And so he did. And I ended up making the team. So I was the only third grader on the team. And I think from that point on, it was like, it's possible. I can be the youngest. And I was tiny. Like, I can be the youngest, I can be the smallest, but I'm still as good or better than these people. And so, yeah, I think that's kind of all where it started. And it's just kind of built on that. Um, I've always been overlooked in sports because of just, I was so tiny growing up. And then once I got into volleyball, I wanted to be an outside hitter, and I was short, way shorter than a lot of the other players. So I had to work extra hard. I had to increase my vertical. I had to do all these things so that I would be noticed and that I could make the teams that I wanted to make. So yeah, I think a lot of it, like being overlooked, pushed me a lot in the direction of like, okay, you think I'm not good enough? Let me show you.
You think I'm
Yeah.
not good enough? Let me show you. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've got a lot of the same, I think if you really dig into it, there are moments throughout our lives that you can point to
Yes.
where you're like, wow,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you get into college and you got a full scholarship, and at this point you
Mm-hmm.
know that you're one of the best.
Right.
What is the difference between high school and college sports, intensity wise?
Um, So I played for a really good high school. Like we won the state championship when I was a sophomore. And we just, as a junior and senior, we didn't win, but we were still, I think we were the runner up my junior year and we took third my senior year. So, and then my club team that I played in high school, every single player, I think there was 12 or 14 girls on our team, and every single player went to school on a scholarship, whether it was full or partial. We were one of the best teams in the country, really. In my 17th year, we won nationals. So I'd always been around really good athletes and really been a part of really good teams. But once you get to college, it's more intense. Everybody is there. Most of the team is there on a scholarship, so they know that they're there and they have to perform, and you have to do well to even keep that money. So it was different in a sense that now you're competing for your spot, but you're still trying to be a team and get along with everybody, but you're like, but that's my starting spot and I'm going to take it. So that was probably the hardest shift for me, of like, I'm a freshman and I want to be nice and meet people, but at the same time, like, I'm here to compete and I'm here to play. So I would say that was one of the hardest, or like the biggest shifts for me.
Do you have any coaches throughout your experience that really stood out to you, that offered just invaluable advice and confidence that you can talk about?
Yeah. This is so bad. I can't even think of his name now, but it was one of my first basketball coaches. He was the best coach I ever had.
In your life to this day?
At the time.
Okay.
At the time he was. Now to this day, I would say my college coach and my very first beach coach, hands down the best coaches I've ever worked with in my life. They're just, and it's crazy because they're both very similar. They don't even know each other and they're so similar. It blows my mind.
Your college coach and your very first beach coach?
My college coach and my beach coach. Yeah. They both did like kinesiology and biomechanics in school. So they understand the body really well. They understand how it works. So it wasn't just a volleyball coach. It was like the way that they would explain things, like, you're going to pass this way because this is what the body allows. And you're going to hit this way because biomechanically it's good on your shoulder and it's good. You're not going to get injured if you do it this way.
Tell me about your basketball coach, though, back in the day.
My basketball coach I think my favorite thing about him was that he was very intense, but also like one of the nicest guys I'd ever met. He pushed his athletes as hard as an athlete could take it. But at the end of the day, he was also like this big teddy bear, like amazing guy. And he saw a ton of potential in me, which I think at the time was one of my first coaches to actually see that, or at least tell me that he saw it. And so he would, like, me and my parents went to his house for dinner just so he could sit down and tell me like the things I needed to do and what it was going to take. But that I had it in me and that I could make it all the way if I wanted. So it was just, I think a lot of it is just, they're amazing coaches on the court and off the court. They are genuine people, and you just know that they want what's best for you and they're going to do anything they can to help you get there.
Can you recall a piece of advice that you've gotten from a coach that has stuck with you?
Oh man, just on the spot like that.
I mean, this is the stuff, right? Like, I feel like,
yeah.
I can think back to a meeting that I had with my last boss before I opened my first business. And I was 25 and I had just come out of some crazy shit. But I'd gotten my life together, and I sat down with him and I was like, "Hey, Frank, I think I said, I'm going to open up my own restaurant." And I'll never forget it. It was like it was yesterday. He looked at me and he said, "Mikey, I love you, but I don't think you've got it in you. And that was my
Oh man.
switch. That was my time where
Yeah.
I switched it on, and I'll never forget
Yeah.
that. And I also, when I talk to him now, and, you know, cause I've talked to him, you know, a bunch over the years, obviously since I've launched
Mm-hmm.
my businesses. And I said, man, that was harsh, dude. And he said, I did that purposely.
Right.
He said he did that. He did that to get me going, you know, and that
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
invaluable.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. I mean, I know my college coach, one of the things he used to always get on me about is he would tell me, he's like, you're a great leader by example, but if no one's watching, you're the worst leader. Because I was never vocal. I couldn't understand why people needed someone to be vocal and to like push them to be their best and to do better and try harder. Because for me, it came from within. And so him telling me that, because I was the captain of the team, and he's like, great leader by example, but you really suck when you don't open your mouth. I'm like, okay.
And
So
what did
that's
that
something
do?
that definitely stuck with me. It put me in a very uncomfortable situation. Like I just felt so uncomfortable because that's not me. That's not who I am. I'm not a cheerleader. I'm not somebody that I'm just not that vocal. So to this day, that's something that I would say I still struggle with, but it's like ingrained in me to work on it and be better at it and to be a better leader vocally, not just by my actions.
What's the difference between college sports and professional sports?
It's different I would say it's probably different for beach volleyball than it is for any other sport. Maybe tennis is similar, but in college volleyball, you literally are told what to do, where you have to be at what time. Everything is scheduled for you. And it's just, it's nice. It's all laid out and you just have to show up. Once I transitioned to beach volleyball, I was completely on my own. I had to find a teammate. I had to find a coach. I had to go work out on my own. There wasn't anybody telling me what to do anymore. So when I first started, that was very hard for me. I like being told what to do. I like just having my schedule. Someone tells me where to go and what to do, and I'm good with that. So that was probably one of the biggest challenges for me switching over and trying to get into that professional career. And honestly, the girls aren't very nice. So
Really?
like when you first switch over, it's like there's nobody really willing to like lead me or help me. It was like figure it out. So yeah, it was an interesting
How long
first
are
couple
you playing?
years.
How long are you playing pro beach volleyball now? Since 2014?
2014 was
Yeah.
my first season. Yeah.
And so you're 6 years into it, and are you now one of those not very nice girls, or are you out there reaching your hand out?
To be honest, I think I've gone back and forth a little bit. There's definitely been times where I'm like, I did it on my own. I made it this far. You can figure it out.
Mhm.
But there's been some girls that I saw them at a practice and I could tell that they were struggling. Cause it's kind of crazy. You can have like a top indoor player from the national team that maybe they won a medal at the Olympics and now they're trying to transition to beach volleyball and they have no idea what they're doing. And it's like, wow, this like amazing athlete is now stuck in this position of like, holy crap, I'm lost and I don't know what to do. So I felt for those people. And so, and even not necessarily that they had to be this Olympic athlete already, but just like these really good athletes that come to the beach and are thinking like, oh, I did this in indoor, so this is going to be easy. And it's not. So I've helped them, but I've also given them tough love. Like it's not like I get that you are this amazing person indoor, but that's not this anymore. And you have to start at the bottom and you have to work your way up. You're not going to be handed something because you're this incredible indoor player. That's not how it works out here.
Have you seen anybody transition from beach to indoor?
No, I have not. I know People go back and forth sometimes, but I'd say it's like 99.9% go from indoor to beach.
And so once you're in beach, I can only imagine that your skill set in indoor, like you just go in there, you just crush an indoor because I mean,
you're faster, you jump higher. I think you can even read the game better. Yeah. So a lot of girls will play beach volleyball in the summer and then go back to their indoor stuff in the fall.
Do you want to be the best in the world?
Yes, I do. That has been something that I've always wanted. And to see how hard I've worked and how close I am is surreal still most of the time. And I don't think that I've ever really sat down and been like, wow, I'm like right there. But yeah, I'm close.
You're right there.
Sure. And it's exciting.
I'm here to tell you, you're like right there. I mean, what does that feel like? I mean, what is training for the Olympics feel like?
You know, honestly, I think this whole pandemic was really good for us to just like us as in me and my teammate, and me individually, just in a sense of like to be able to sit back and look at the journey that we've been on and where I came from and where I struggled, and knowing that we're right there. We're so close. Because I think, you know, we get lost in our day to day. Okay, we're going to practice. Okay, we're going to the gym. Okay, we're doing a video session. And it's just kind of, you get in this routine of just like, it's just another day of doing this stuff. And then the pandemic hit and it all gets taken away. And you're like, whoa, like it definitely made me appreciate the sport more and appreciate what I've done and where I've come from. And just like even more excited to make that last push to hopefully go to the Olympics.
What does a day look like for you when you're in full swing training?
It depends on where we're at, like if there's a tournament or if we're just in preseason. But in general, practice on the beach in the morning from usually like 7:30 to 10 or 8 to 10, and then have about an hour, 2-hour break. And then we drive up to the valley to see our strength and conditioning coach. And our workouts are usually an hour and a half.
What do those look like? What do your strength programming look like?
Seriously. So we've been with our strength coach for about 2 years now. The hardest workouts I've ever done in my life. And we hardly touch metal. We do like in the off season and pre-season, mostly in the off season to build up more muscle. But during season is a ton of band work and a ton of body weight, and the hardest workouts I've ever done in my life.
Just like high intensity stuff, high intensity interval training.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And it's very beach volleyball specific, and it's very position specific. So I'm a defender, my teammate's the blocker. So even though we're in the gym together, most of the time we're doing different stuff just because mine's specific to me, hers is specific to her. Our trainer is absolutely incredible. And the stuff that he comes up with is just the way that it transitions onto the beach and into our game is the best that I've ever seen.
Is he a specific volleyball trainer?
He's not. He did get into the sport of beach volleyball about 15 years ago. He started working with one team on the men's side, and that's the only team he's been with for all this time. So 2 years ago, our coach tried to get us in with him, and he was like, nah, I'm not really looking for another, like, I'm good on clients. I don't need more. And our coach convinced him to see us just one time. He's like, just let him come into your gym one time. And me and my teammate did. And he was like, okay. He's like, you guys have what it takes. I'm on board. I want to do this journey with you guys. And he's been unreal ever since we started.
All right. So at around 10 o'clock, you take an hour off, and then you're in the gym by like 11:30. Yeah.
It's like an hour. We're usually there by like 12.
Okay.
It's about an hour drive. So we see him, work out from about 12 to 1:30. Then we drive back down to Hermosa, and we have Once a week, I meet individually with our sports psych. And then once a week, we meet as a team with our sports psych. And then we have video sessions, anywhere from like 1 to 3 times a week, just depending on where we're at in the season.
And that's just to watch your positioning and watch your play.
Yeah, it depends. It's either watching ourselves, maybe
or
we're watching
others,
our training practice, yeah, or watching others. Because I love watching. There's a German player. She is the best defender in the world, so I love watching her play. Just trying to like pick up the things that she does and try to mimic, some of her stuff. So I love watching the top players so that I can learn to be that. And then we do all of our like recovery. We have massages a few times a week. Yeah, just a bunch of different recovery modalities.
So that's another great question that I'm super interested in. So, I mean, for athletes, like we all know how to train, right? Training is like the thing that kind of comes naturally. I think the thing that does not come naturally is the recovery component.
Right.
I mean, at least for me, right? Like I've only really gotten into recovery in the last like year. I got my my pro bodybuilding card in September, and I knew that, like I'm also not like 22 years old anymore.
Right.
So, like I just knew that if I wasn't taking care of my recovery, there's no shot that I'm going to be competing at a pro level with these guys without taking my recovery seriously. So what kind of recovery do you do? Like what have you found to be the most sort of impactful recovery?
I do a ton of ice baths. I love ice baths. So that's probably like the number one thing.
And how do you do your ice bath?
So we have like our USA volleyball facility is 10 minutes from my house. So they have ice tubs in there for us. So we usually try to get it to, I'd say like low 50s, and then stay in there for 10 minutes. And then that's it.
So you do that a couple times a week?
Yeah. And then a Normatec. Do you know what a Normatec is?
I got a set at home.
Yeah. So I do that a lot. I do that probably 4 days a week, if not more. And then I have a machine.
I do them every night. And I splurged and treated myself with some Normatec. And then, of course, Hyper Ice sent me a whole bunch of stuff. And they said, do you need a pair of Normatecs? And I was like, oh, fuck.
Yes, I need it all.
Yeah.
And like foam roll, the Hypervolt, the gun. I use that stuff every day.
Have you tried their new ball, the new ball that they have?
The Sphere, that vibrates. Yeah.
How good is that thing?
Man, you can get into your hips. It's amazing.
Oh my gosh. Hips, shoulder blades, like that thing is absolutely incredible. I turned I bought a chest freezer and I saw it on YouTube. I forgot. It was either a CrossFit athlete or an MMA athlete. Anyway, basically took a chest freezer, filled it halfway up with water. I rigged it up in the back and it stays at 38 degrees. And I have it in my garage gym. Geez. And so I just like hop in there for like 3 to 5 minutes, a couple of days a week. And it's like game changing. But I never have to worry about ice.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you love the ice bath.
Invest in that. I love the ice bath. Yeah.
I mean, I'm telling you.
I mean, the first minute sucks, but then you're basically frozen anyway. So
yeah, totally. Totally. I mean, the fact that this thing, to be able to jump in a body of water that's, 38, 40 degrees.
Yeah.
The the feeling that you get when you walk out of there after some time is unlike any other feeling, I think.
Yes, I agree.
So you're looking at the Olympics, you're looking down the barrel of it. And do you think that there's anything you're missing? Do you feel like there's something that you could be doing more of, or are you feeling like you are right in the target zone of where you need to be?
I think that there's stuff that we still need to get better at, stuff that we can improve on. And I think this time off, not really having a season this year, has helped us in those areas, which has been amazing. But yeah, there's definitely, I would say there's some stuff from the mental side that still needs to just get better. And then just some organization stuff so that we're feeling just having that kind of periodization programming throughout the season of this is when we need to peak. This is when we can take some time off. Just getting all that stuff kind of organized and put together.
Who sets that up for you? Does your coach set that up for you?
Yes and no. A coach that I used to work with did all that stuff all the time. And so I took a lot of just kind of stuff that he did and made it into our own. So I set a lot of it up. But then we sit down as a team and kind of go over it with my teammate and our coach, and my sports psych helps a lot with that stuff too. So it's kind of a team effort.
What do you, what's your nutrition like?
I grew up, my mom was kind of a health freak always. So I grew up eating really healthy. I've never been on a diet or done anything like that. I have a sweet tooth. So I think all that stuff just in modification is fine. At least for me, everyone's different. But nutrition is huge. Just like making sure that I'm eating a good breakfast every day.
What's your breakfast typically?
Well, I also get really bored with food. So I'm all over the board. I can't eat the same thing every day. Some of my go-tos are like overnight oats, 3-ingredient pancakes, which are a mashed up banana, an egg, and a tablespoon of nut butter, avocado toast. I'm all over the place. Eggs.
I mean, that's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. I feel like there are more people in the world of fitness and athletics, I do believe, are more creatures of habits than not, specifically when it comes to breakfast. Yeah. Are there any habits that you stick to on a regular basis that you've implemented into your life that have helped you optimize in any area?
I feel like I've tried so many things in the past of just like I've tried CBD oil, I've tried essential oils just for different stuff. But I still kind of bounce around. I'm not very superstitious, so I don't feel like I have to do these things in order to perform well. So yeah, I can't say that there's anything that I'm really like, oh, I have to do
like
this.
any morning routine stuff.
The first thing I do is make coffee in the morning.
Yeah.
That's like one thing where I'm like, there's no like coffee has to happen first thing.
Got it. So you just keep it simple.
Yeah, I do. I keep it simple. Because with our sport, there's so much that can happen, and it's different than any other sport in a sense of like, okay, your match is going to be at 12 o'clock, but then maybe the match before you went over. So now you're not playing until 12:45, or maybe it rained and now the tournament is pushed back a day. Like there's just so many things that can happen and go wrong. So I feel like you have to be flexible with it. You have to learn how to adjust to those things or you can't perform. Yeah.
This is such a great combo. It's so awesome for me to be able to speak to someone like you who has accomplished so much, who sits at the pro level and is about to get on the world stage and compete for the best in the world. I mean, when when you hear somebody say, do you want to be the best in the world? Like in most scenarios, that sounds like a joke. Right? Like,
right.
How can you possibly ever like being the best in the world? But for you, that is a reality. Like you
Right.
are at the level where you are competing with the best in the world. And I can only imagine that there's pressure there. Specifically for someone like you, who sounds like you've been really a self-motivator, and you've had a little chip on your shoulder to just get out there and fucking show them what's up.
Right. Right.
Have you read Tim Grover's book,
Oh my
Relentless?
gosh. Hands down, my favorite book of all time.
Is it?
I'm obsessed with that book. Yeah.
So do you think that's you?
Yes, I do.
So
And even
yeah,
reading that book, I was like, I even wanted to, like, I want to be more like this. Not just like, yeah, I think this is me. It's like, no, this is going to be me.
you got to get in touch with that guy.
I know. I follow him on Instagram and we did DM one time and I was like, this is amazing.
That book is intense. If anybody
Oh
who's
my
listening
gosh.
has not read Relentless by Tim Grover, he's the strength coach, or he's just the coach, the all around coach for guys like Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant and Dwayne Wade and some other
Yeah.
incredible athletes. But he describes the kind of athlete that is different than everyone else, and they have a relentless mentality, which is that of, I want to be the best, period. And if
Mm-hmm.
you're not going to want to be the best with me, I'm going to essentially push you to the side and find people that are. And I don't care much about how you feel, because this is my passion in life, and I'm just going to fucking do
Yeah.
it. And so
Yeah.
if you can get with it, get with it. And if you can't, sorry, it's not going to work
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love it. It is, I would say the hardest part for me is that I am genuinely a nice person. So sometimes I have a hard time in a sense of like getting on someone or like, you're not working hard enough, step up. But I wish like that's something that I would love to get better at and just be like, no, like this is a business, this is my career, and this is what it takes. So either you're in or you're out.
Yeah.
That'd be nice to just like implement that more.
Well, you know what though? I honestly do think that there are people who have risen to the absolute best that have been able to balance that.
Yeah, that's true.
Because the truth is, for me, in just my experiences in life, like, the people that were not nice, um, there was like even if they were unbelievable at what they did, the people that were
Mm-hmm.
really not nice, they just left a bit of a trail behind them. And
Yeah,
sometimes that trail became really toxic. And,
yeah,
that toxicity, it might work for them, because in their
right,
mind, they're just like, I'm here for one fucking reason, and
right,
that is to win, period.
right.
But that could leave a wake behind them, or that in some cases, or in most cases does, that people don't love, and so
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think having that mentality, which is like, I'm here to fucking win, and you better understand that.
Yeah,
I'll give you a high five, but if you keep fucking dropping the ball,
right.
just understand that I might still love you, but I'm certainly not going to carry you, and
Yeah,
that's sort of been
yeah,
the way
absolutely.
that's how I travel through. I'm like, hey, here are the fucking rules.
Yeah, I like that.
I'm a nice person, but I'm
Right.
also like a passionate, diehard, focused individual, and I want you to win with
Yeah,
me. You know.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Um,
I like that.
are there any other books that you've read that you love that we can read?
Yes. One of my other favorite books is Where Men Win Glory, the Pat Tillman story.
Okay, cool. I
Have you read
haven't
that
read that.
book?
No,
Oh my gosh. Oh, that one's incredible also.
really.
Yeah, it talks a lot about his life. And I think why I loved it so much is because he was also somebody that liked to live life on the edge. And, he would go climbing trees and diving off of rocks, and his teammates were always like, dude, you're going to get hurt. You're going to ruin your career. And his response was, dude, this is who I am. This brings fear in my life. So when I'm on the football field, I fear nothing. And so that's who I am. And that sticks with me. So anytime my coach or my trainer is like, I'd really like you to not go snowboarding. I'm like, well, but I also don't have somebody that's come to me and said, sign this $1 million contract, but you can't do these things. So as long as I don't have a contract like that, I'm like, I still have to live my life.
Yeah. All right. I've got 2 last questions for you.
Okay.
For the person listening, I know you got to go. For the person listening to this podcast that is dying to be where you are today, whether it's in volleyball or anywhere that is at a level that you're at, what kind of advice can you give us to sort of just light the fucking fire?
Yeah. I think a lot of it, you have to not look outside of what you're trying to do. Don't watch other people. Don't be upset when they're having success and you're not. I think you have to be able to just go internal and push yourself that way and find a support system that can stick with you and help you the whole way. I think different times in my career got caught up in, they're getting handed something and I'm over here working my ass off. It's unfair. So to just kind of blur that stuff out and just continue to grind and do everything you can that is in your power that you can control.
I love that.
Yeah.
Emily Stockman, do you think you were born with the ability to crush it the way you have, or were you made over time?
I think I was made over time. I think there's been a lot of things that I've gone through in my life that have made me who I am and have made me just I've wanted the things I've wanted because of what's happened to me, and just having those people say you're not good enough or you can't do it or you're not tall enough, that made me into who I am, because I had to prove to those people that they were wrong.
Fuck yeah. You're the best. This was awesome.
You're the best. Thank you.
I love this conversation. I cannot wait for this podcast to air.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Super inspirational. And where can we find you? Where can people follow along?
The only thing I really keep up with is Instagram. So it's at estock2. You can keep up with my journey. Anytime we have a tournament, I try and keep everyone up to date of when we're playing and where we're playing, and just kind of what I'm doing in life at that moment. So,
Emily, go kick ass at the 2021 games.
Yes, Tokyo, here we come.
We're gonna be rooting you on from
Thank you.
Little town in upstate New York, and
love it.
Appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me on. This was awesome.
You're the best. Later.